what is up, guys? Welcome to the Dynasty Fan Podcast. You are here with Caleb and Ryan. Thank you guys for listening in and joining us today. We got a good show for you. Going to be talking about a couple of takeaways from week 2, as well as some waiver wire targets that we are targeting in our leagues. So, how's it going, Ryan?
It's going good, man. It's a good week too. A lot of ups and downs, a lot of tough injuries, but overall, I'm pretty good. Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill saving me in a lot of leagues right now.
Yeah, Tyreek, and Diggs monster, and then Tyreek. Wow. So let's go into some of our takeaways. I guess that could lead us straight into one of our first takeaways was just the Tyreek, Waddle, and Tua, man, just smashed. Oh my goodness. Crazy
Yeah,
numbers for week 2.
yeah. It just seemed like the perfect game script for them because they got down so big in that game, and then they just had to throw. I mean, I think it was over 50 passing attempts, which is a lot, even in today's NFL. And it was like Tua to Waddle or Tua to Hill, like on every single play. And so it's good if you have Waddle. I know some people were a little bit worried about Waddle, especially in Dynasty. A lot of people were worried about Hill coming over, Waddle looks like somebody who's, in Dynasty, he's definitely a top 8 to 10 receiver, probably.
Yeah, for sure. Hill probably too, right? Both probably top 10.
Yeah, for sure. I love Hill. I have Hill a little bit higher, obviously, but for Dynasty, I mean, Waddle's so young, man, and
Yeah.
Hill's a little bit older, so that's the only thing, I would,
They're
you
probably
know,
back to back, maybe.
yep.
Definitely, yeah. That was good to see because I have Waddle. I almost sold him in a couple of dynasties. I had a couple of trade offers, and I was really tempted because I was not sure. But I definitely in redraft, I didn't mind taking him round 4. I preferred that over the Tyreek price, but man, and Tua too, man, looking like a good. They're really
Yep.
what we wanted the Bengals to look like, right? So far,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. And it's kind of funny because, especially like in Dynasty, players' values just kind of like change
Yeah,
like frequently. Like I remember last year, I couldn't get a second round pick in Superflex for Tua, right? Nobody wanted him. And now you should see the offers I got today for Tua.
yeah.
So
That's
I'm
a
I'm thinking about selling them, man. If I can get the offer today was
that's
Carson
a good pick.
Wentz. It was I got an offer for Carson Wentz and I think like a third round super flex, which is
Yeah,
not terrible because
man.
Wentz
Not
has been
good not
okay.
after that game.
No, I want a first. If I can get a 23 first and Carson Wentz, maybe a little sleeper tight end or something, I might do it. And in that league specifically, I'm pretty stacked at quarterback. I have Deshaun Watson. Oh, I have Trey Lance, who that just hurts my heart. But I also
Oh,
have Justin Herbert. I have Justin Herbert also. So it's a 10 team super flex dynasty. So quarterbacks are valuable, but not probably as valuable. So if I can get a rookie pick and go down to a Carson Wentz, be my third QB once Deshaun comes back, and hopefully
mhm.
Lance. I might do something like that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely sucks to see Lance, man, an injury, but
Yeah, and
hopefully
that
they said he had a surgery, 2 surgeries, and went well. But I actually think though, in a way though, it's gonna help. I think sounds bad to say, but I think it's Ayuk and some of those pass catchers. It's gonna be better for them, in my
yeah,
opinion.
that's what a lot of people are kind of. That seems to be what the consensus is, especially Ayuk and Kittle when he comes back because he's got some good chemistry with Jimmy G. So we'll see. But we know Jimmy G is a serviceable quarterback. I mean, he let this team took him all the way to the Super Bowl. So we'll see.
Yeah. So I even heard some of the 49ers behind the scenes were saying that. I don't know how true that was, if that was rumor, but I think what you're talking about with trade targets too, that could lead us into when you're talking about trying to get a second, right, or a first for Tua. I was thinking the same thing, and I'm so glad sometimes the trades that we don't get accepted are the best things that happen for us. But I was trying to trade this player that you wanted to talk about for second round picks. I was thinking like, early second, because I got him kind of like in the mid second. I was like, you know what, I'll
Mhm.
just take an early second, maybe a little throw in piece. But this man right here, definitely worth a lot more. And this was your wording right here. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
he's a monster, man. I mean, the target share that he's commanding is just off the charts. It's comparable. His numbers at the end of last year and the start of the season this year, they're comparable to Cooper Cup. So I think that there's definitely some truth in saying that he's this year's Cooper Cup. Kind of, we thought he would be good, but nobody thought he would be this good. And I understand we can say, oh, it's only week 2, but I mean the numbers that he's putting up, man. I mean the numbers. He almost 40 points for fantasy this past week,
Yeah,
and he just seems to have really good chemistry with golf. And then their offense just looks good, man. I mean the Lions just look like a very much improved team. Like they're buying into the head coach Dan Campbell's system. And so hopefully Hawkinson will get it going a little bit. I have Hawkinson in a couple of dynasties and in redraft, and he's kind of been the one of the guys that's kind of been hurt a little bit by the production and the the target share that St. Brown just seems to be demanding. But I mean, if you took our advice, we said we were kind of fading some of those older players later in the draft, and we were getting guys like Elijah Moore and like St. Brown. And right now, I mean, he was going in around 6 or 7 in our redraft leagues. And so if you got him as your third wide receiver, oh my gosh,
league winner.
he's a league winner. Yeah, he's a league winner, barring injury.
So I just got to pop up that Malik Willis is in at QB. I don't know if it's what's
Yeah,
up, but yeah,
I
that's
got
pretty
the
cool.
same message. Not sure if Tannehill got hurt or just I think it's a blowout. So they're just probably giving him a look. So we'll see.
Yeah. So I think that Amon-Ra is going to keep it up too. I just don't see him slowing down. I know people are worried about when Jameson Williams comes back, but I mean I think Jameson Williams will pretty much slide into that Chark role. And we saw Chark with 10 targets week 1. Amon-Ra still had himself a game, so I don't think it's going to really matter too much. And I think he's just the real deal, right? And some people just aren't accepting it yet or haven't accepted it fully yet. But definitely, man, geez, it's just he's going to
Yeah.
keep this up. He is that guy, right?
I agree, especially for redraft. I'm all in on St. Brown. For dynasty, I mean, I still obviously love the player. I think that Jameson Williams is a really good talent, and I think long term, I don't. I think he'll take some of the target share, but I mean, I still love St. Brown. I don't think it's going to be anything like
Yeah.
where he's just going to take over and St. Brown's going to go to nothing. So
So speaking of huge steals in the draft, another one, Christian Kirk, man, another just great game, dominating the target share over there. Just looks good in that Jacksonville offense with Trevor Lawrence. So Christian Kirk, another huge steal in your fantasy drafts, drafted round 8 or 9 most of the time. So looking like another great steal in your fantasy drafts as well.
yeah, I agree. And we said this I think in one of our podcasts with Tyreek Hill, but teams will kind of tell you what they think of players with how they pay them. They gave Tyreek Hill a lot of money. They weren't going to not throw him the ball. They were going to use him. They're going to try to get him the ball. And it's kind of the same with Christian Kirk. Like they gave him a lot of money for a receiver who had some good games, but he's not a elite wide receiver, at least in NFL standards, right? By NFL standards, right? A lot of people in the NFL community were actually like surprised at the deal that he got from the Jaguars. But that, should have been like a signal to us that hey, they're going to use this guy. And it seems like he's just developed good chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. And he's looking for him, and he makes plays, man. He makes plays all over the field and down the field. He makes big plays.
Yeah. And I think we can't talk about a little recap of week 2 without talking about just the rookie wide receivers dominating, man, taking over for their teams. Just Chris Olave leading in targets with 13. You had Drake London with a monster game. Garrett Wilson with a monster game. I think they're both with like 8 targets over 100 yards slightly and the touchdown. So man, just great to see. And then Jahan Dotson again follows it up with another touchdown. Follows up his week 1. He had only I think 5 targets, but still gets another touchdown. So it's just good to see these rookies taking off. I saw Treylon Burks too at half was like 4 for 47. So that was good to see. I think he had a little increase in snap share today. So Treylon Burks is also just a matter of time before he just explodes if he hasn't already.
Yeah, I agree, man. And like with Garrett Wilson, oh, I love Garrett Wilson. He was an elite talent coming out of Ohio State, and all the people just were just glowing about him. And it was kind of an interesting fit because Elijah Moore is there, and they had Corey Davis. But he's in 2 weeks, he's taken over. He had 14 targets
The wide
yesterday.
receiver 1 there.
14 targets, and 2 touchdowns, and the play of the game. He won the game for them. And so, he's somebody that if I have in redraft, I'm starting him every week in my flex.
Him and
Unless
London
it's
need to
yes, and
start.
Yes, for sure. Unless it's like a 8 team or a 10 team and you're stacked at wide receiver, maybe he's like, but he's definitely a flex play. Um, for sure. So, and I have some shares of him in Dynasty, and I have some shares of Olave, and I'm loving those teams right now.
Yeah. And then the opposite spectrum right here. I think one of the takeaways, man, just those Chiefs wide receivers just disappointed, right? Man, it's just weird that you would. It's like you don't know who to own, or if you don't want to own any wide receivers from the Chiefs, which is just weird because they're just such a great offense with Patrick Mahomes, but just the way the ball's kind of. Well,
Hmm.
this last game, just the way it was spread out, and then they're playing like 5 or 6 wide receivers. Well, except everyone except Sky Moore. But
Hmm.
I think they
Yeah,
just don't have like a lead. It just seems they don't have a just a lead wide receiver, a lead dog there. And I think they
yeah,
don't even. It's hard to say, but it doesn't even seem like they have a playmaker. I know they wanted MBS to be that. It's just not him. And then Juju just doesn't seem. I mean, 3 receptions for 10 yards for
yeah.
Juju
It
playing
was,
the whole
and
game with Patrick Mahomes. There's only a
yeah,
matter of time, I think, though. They got to give Sky Moore a shot. I would assume. Just, geez, they just have. It just seems like the wide receivers just don't got it right.
I agree, man. It was tough. I started Juju in a couple of my dynasties, and it hurt, man. I mean, to play that whole game and, like you said, to get like 4 points, it was tough. Especially if he had a pretty solid week one. But I think a lot of it just depends on also too the way teams are going to want to cover the Chiefs. If they try to zone him up, then I think Juju will be like better. He's a good like zone wide receiver, like where he can find kind of holes in the zone. But when you man him up in press coverage and you have somebody that can man the slot, like the Chargers do, the Chargers have a really good pass defense and overall pretty solid defense. Then he couldn't get any separation. That's why his targets were 3 yards because he just couldn't get any separation. And really, a lot of the players couldn't. Even Kelsey. Um, Kelsey didn't really have a good game by Kelsey standards either. So there's definitely some, just things that are going to be interesting moving forward. I mean, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is somebody that I would like to get some shares of, man, in redraft. Because, I mean, they need somebody to make some plays, and if they're going to dink and dunk down the field, he's going to be the guy getting a lot of targets, I would think. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, week 1 and 2, I think Alaire's kind of a sell for me right now. He only had 10 and then 12 touches. That last video we did was just he's a sell, but just because of limited targets. But I do see what you're saying. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns week 1, so maybe he is just that guy that's going to do that for them.
Mhm.
And then I think leading off to and just to some more disappointments, some players that I am worried about. I'm going to talk about. I have DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney. I think these guys, DJ Moore especially, because you probably got him like round 4, around those guys like Waddle that are just killing right now, right? Even Deontay Johnson getting a lot of targets, but DJ Moore back to back 6 targets, right? And the narrative with Baker, we thought he's gonna get a lot of targets, a big touchdown upside, and he even got a touchdown. That's what's crazy. He got a touchdown this past weekend, and he still only got 13 fantasy points. I mean, with the 6 targets, Baker just does not. He looks terrible. Doesn't look good. The Panthers don't look good, and so I'm just kind of concerned about DJ Moore. I only have him, I think, in one league because I never really get him, but I got him in one league, and I'm
It's
for
because
sure.
I always get them. You
Yeah, you
never
always.
get them because I always get them. I have DJ Moore everywhere in like every single dynasty, but like one that
You
I'm
worried
in.
about it? You worried about
Yes,
him?
yes, I'm worried about him. I'll trade you St. Brown for DJ Moore right now. Go ahead and send it.
You got 4 more first on top. So
No.
the other guy that I'm worried about, and I don't even. I have 0 shares. In 15 leagues, I have 0 shares. I was worried about him coming into the season. That's Darnell Mooney. Last year, I mean, just last year he was 10th in targets, and it only amounted to 30. It was 32nd, right, in points per game as a wide receiver. So how are you, 10th in targets, right? He was tied for Jalen Waddle, and it still only amounted to 30 wide receiver 32 in points per game. So even with high targets, like it wasn't that good, right? And a lot of people loved him. They thought he wide receiver 1 potential. That was his ceiling this year. And I didn't see it. We had a video breakdown of not just the same thing, breaking down his targets. And now this year, he's not getting the targets, right? I think he put up a 0 week 1, but he had 1.8 fantasy points week 1, and then with 3 targets, and then this weekend 2 targets. He had 0.60, 0.60 against Green Bay, not even one fantasy point. And really, they're just the way that they're trying to win. It seems is it's just going to be kind of an ugly game, right? Run the ball. They only threw the ball 11 times. So Justin Fields with 11 pass attempts. That's not what you want, right? And that's definitely not wide receiver. a wide receiver one ceiling. If your quarterback's throwing 11 times in the game, so I'm worried about Darnell Mooney. Right? Luckily, I didn't draft him anywhere. I have 0 shares, like I said. But these are just two players that stand out as just man. I'd be worried if I was the owners. I'd be trying to sell even if someone thought that they were buying low on them by chance. You know, because I know there's people that really like both of these players, and I'm just a little bit concerned. I know it's early on. I think it can look. I think it can maybe turn. It can get better. I think for DJ Moore. I'm not sure with Fields. It can get better for Darnell Mooney. I think they would need like a QB change or something for it to get better for Darnell Mooney. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm with you. I don't have any shares of Darnell Mooney. I have 0 shares of him in all the dynasties and in all the redraft leagues. I just don't have any shares of him. I don't really have many Bears. The only one would be Montgomery.
Yeah. Even I
But
guess you
yeah,
can say Komet too, right? You're worried about Komet too.
yes, for
A
sure. I
lot of
mean, I
people
think
like
he
him.
had 0 yesterday too, and so it's just very strange. Week 1, I can kind of understand because in that monsoon of a game, they're not going to throw a lot, but against the Packers, to not have any targets to not have any catches for basically your number one guy and your number two guys is just weird. And like you said, 11 pass attempts, they were trailing the whole game. You know what I mean? It's just like they don't want to. It's like they don't really fully trust Justin Fields, or I don't know. So yeah, it's tough. I'm not a Bears fan, so not my problem.
So before we get into the waivers, I just want to talk about a couple of running back battles. So running back committees. So I think just noteworthy that Akers, right, finally this week, it seems like forever, but he's back in there and he gets more touches than Henderson. So I just think it's noteworthy to say because a lot of people are saying this is Henderson's backfield, and that may be true. Henderson played more of the snaps, but Akers got more touches, so I just think that's worth noting. 15 carries and 3 targets to Henderson's 10 carries, no targets for Henderson. So that's one thing. The other thing is Mostert. Mostert out carries Edmonds now, 11 carries, 3 targets to Edmonds, 5 carries, 3 targets. But in my opinion, I think Edmonds is a buy low because I don't think Mostert, if he starts getting touches, I mean, he just gets hurt every season once he gets that role. So I think Edmonds is a sneaky little buy low right now because owners are probably going to be concerned. And that last one, Aaron Jones goes back reestablishes the RB1 in that backfield. But AJ Dillon still with 18 carries and 3 targets. So I think
Mhm.
AJ Dillon could be even a sneaky little buy low if someone's worried. I think he only had 7 fantasy points. Aaron Jones got the TDs, right? Aaron Jones was more efficient though. He had 15 carries for 132 yards. AJ Dillon 18 carries for 61 yards, and they both got 3 targets. But I think that's still good. I think AJ Dillon, if you're getting 21 touches on Green Bay's backfield, that's good. That's solid. So I think he's a good little buy low right now. Also, if someone's panicking with the Aaron Jones and those touchdowns and just the efficient game that he had.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to get some shares of Dylan. I have him in a couple of redrafts. I had him in a bunch of dynasties, and then just over the past years, he was always like a throw-in piece to get something else.
Yeah,
But I definitely still love AJ Dillon because you said he's getting touches and he's in a good offense.
yeah.
And once they get inside the goal line, like he's going to be an option. It's going to be Jones sometimes too, but Dillon's going to get touches, and so I definitely like the call on AJ Dillon.
All right, so let's get into some waivers now. Well, we won't show you that one yet. So, Ryan, who's somebody on the waiver wire that you're looking to get right now?
Well, I got a couple names for you. So for running backs are always tough at times, but we don't yet know the status of James Conner. So he was ruled out of the game with an ankle injury. So we really don't know yet if he's going to be able to play. So that's what's kind of difficult, right? You don't want to waste too much of your fab on a guy that may not have a significant role. But Benjamin and Darrell Williams, man. Yeah, both of those guys are probably available on waivers. Benjamin is available. He's only 16% rostered, and Darrell Williams even less, only 10% rostered. So, I mean, these guys, if James Conner is going to miss a game or two or any length of time, these guys need to be on your radar and they need to be rostered. So, Benjamin looked pretty good and caught. He seemed to catch some more passes, but Darrell Williams, I think, got a couple more rushing attempts and also looked good. Um, so it's definitely a good offense to have guys. We've seen James Conner not put up the best numbers, but then he gets a bunch of touchdowns. And so If you can get those running backs on waivers, either Eno or Darrell. I kind of like Eno Benjamin more, but like if I didn't get Eno, I would place a lesser bid on Darrell Williams and be fine with that as well. If you need a flex play or an emergency running back start.
Yeah, I tend to lean Daryl Williams. I think that I kind of like Eno with Connor there, and if Connor were to go down, I think that's what I had said that I like Daryl Williams because also too Daryl. I think he had a little bit more carries, and then he was a little bit more efficient with it. I think he had 14 points and had 10. But also too, I think that we saw Daryl Williams kind of take that role last year with Kansas City, right? And he did pretty good. I mean, he was decent. I think he was like RB 20 on the season, which is weird, right? You wouldn't think that, but he was an RB 2 last
Hmm.
season in fantasy. So I think that if he could be the lead role right in that offense, which he's done it before, so I think they might be okay handing him a little bit more workload than Eno, but we'll see. Time will tell. But I definitely like taking a shot on either one. I
Yeah.
just read right now the report. It says with for Connor that it's not serious, right? But it could miss some time, right? But not maybe not too long. But still, even
Hmm.
for the meantime, that's still great. And then even if he comes back, right? We know Connor's missed time before in the past, right? So I
Hmm.
think those are good players to have for sure off the waiver wire.
Yeah, and you could even bid zero. Maybe if you have somebody that you want to drop, maybe you bid zero and pick up a Darrell Williams, and just hold him for a week. Even if he doesn't play this week, maybe Connor re-injures himself, and then now he's out significant amount of time. Never know.
Yeah. So we got a couple of tandems here. So for me, for running backs, I have Jordan Mason and Marlon Mack. So the similar vein right there that you're going, just kind of taking a shot at the backfield. I know we had Tyrion Davis Price last week, but Tyrion Davis Price actually got 14 carries. He didn't do much with it, but I was
Yeah,
still glad that he got 14 carries. So that was a pretty good stash last week for us. And now though, he's got a high ankle sprain. So we know Mitchell's going to be out at least 7 more weeks. And now we have
yeah, I believe.
TDP.
Yeah, I believe he's out 2 to 4 weeks is what they
Yep.
said. Sideline 2 to 4 weeks, and that stinks because I just got him on waivers for
We're
like
talking
a
about Tyrion
dollar.
Davis Price.
Yeah, TDP.
Oh, okay, good. I thought you were talking about Mitchell. I was like, whoa,
No,
Mitchell,
no,
I
no.
heard
I'm
he was.
sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I might have said the wrong name, but yeah, TDP. I just heard because I picked him up on
Okay.
waivers this past week,
Yep.
and he's out 2 to 4 weeks. So
Okay. So those high ankle sprains, though, we know they could linger a little bit. So sometimes they take a little longer. So either way, Jordan Mason, Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack was added to the practice squad, right? So he's probably going to be moved up, I'm sure. So you just never know. I'm just kind of betting on uh, taking a shot in the backfield. Marlon Mack will probably be the cheaper option. Jordan Mason is still on waivers though in some leagues. I see him. So either one, just take a shot in the backfield. If you want to go with the veteran, or if you want to go with the rookie, it's up to you.
yeah, I like it.
All right. So who do you got? Right. Take us into your next one.
All right, so this one is a little bit tricky because I really hate Patriot wide receivers.
Hmm.
But Jacoby Myers, man, he's only 40% owned. And this past week, 13 targets. Didn't score a touchdown and still had 18, 19 fantasy points because of the yards and the catches. If you're getting, 8 to 10 or 13 targets, that guy, he's somebody that you can definitely play week to week. I will say it is a little bit risky because you just never know. The Patriots,
Amen.
they could come out and run 50 times and literally not throw the ball but one time, like we saw last year. You know,
I think it was two. Yeah.
um, so it's like, oh my gosh. But I mean, but Myers is a great wide receiver, man, and I think as the year goes along, he'll be the guy to own. Devontae Parker's there also, but he's literally done nothing in 2 games. So, and like I know you said, you like Nelson Aguilar just because he caught a big touchdown. So, I mean, if I'm not saying this, I wouldn't spend a lot of money, but I mean, if you have a roster spot or somebody went down, it wouldn't hurt to try to see and check waivers to make sure Jacoby Myers is rostered. Like I said, they're only Jacoby Myers is only 40% rostered. So
Yeah. Definitely going to be. They're going to be popular names. I think on the waiver wire. A lot of people I think are going to see that stat line for Aguilar. It was 6 receptions for 110 yards and 23 fantasy points. So definitely a good day, right? We don't know, I guess, how boom or bust will be, but that's a good little guy to have on your bench, right? For those weeks where you need a flex or anything like that. That's a good guy you want on your flex that could just have a big game like that.
yeah, I agree, man. Especially like we play in a couple of fantasy leagues where we have huge starting 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 roster. So if you're starting 10, 12 players and with multiple flexes,
These
those are
guys,
those are the types of guys you want, guys that can go off and get you 20 points.
yeah, especially
So
for those fill-in weeks. So,
yeah.
so I'm gonna go with some wide receivers here. I got another tandem for you with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We got Perriman and Gage. So I think right now we just had the news that Mike Evans is going to be suspended. I don't know if Godwin's going to be back. So this is just a matter of, man, just going to have opportunity, right? Then Perriman and Gage, they both did pretty decent this past week. Perriman 3 for 5, and also he's a big body receiver, so he got a touchdown, so some goal line or some red zone targets. So I like Perriman. And also, Perriman's going to be the lesser owned guy. Gage was a little bit more popular name, but Gage was 6 targets. So I think either one of these guys are a good little flyer to take for that Tampa Bay wide receiver room.
Yep, I agree, man. I think I kind of like Perriman more just because he seems to have some chemistry down the field with
Yeah,
Brady, like those deep shots.
yeah,
So if you're kind of needing a wide receiver play, I'd go for the glory shot, man, which is Perriman, and then like you said, we know that Godwin's out now. Evans is out. Julio Jones. I guess we don't know if he's out next week, but somebody's going to have to catch
Julio might be
passes.
out. You never know. Yeah,
Maybe even it's Scotty Miller, man, back from the grave.
yeah.
So we'll see.
All right. So why don't you take us into your receiver? You got someone from New York.
Yeah, so I have my last wide receiver to add is Sterling Shepard. And you might want to add him now, so because he's probably going to get hurt in about 3 weeks, because that's usually what he does. He usually has about 4 or 5 or 6 pretty solid weeks for fantasy, and then he gets hurt. He misses the rest of the season. But Sterling Shepard, 10 targets. He seems to be the one that is on the field the most in that Giants offense. Kadarius Toney not even really playing much, and neither is Kenny Galladay. At least this past week, Sterling Shepard was on the field the most out of their wide receivers. Like I said, he had 10 targets, had a touchdown. He's also only 21% rostered, so he's definitely somebody that you can probably pick up for not a lot of fab if that's what you do, if
Yeah,
that's what your waivers are. So
yeah. Shepard always a popular name. It's right. It's like every year he's a popular waiver ad in the first few weeks. So I'm gonna go throw in some tight ends here. These are deeper stashes, right? But they're definitely in play, right? If you had like Kittle, right, or one of your tight ends goes down, or they're just underperforming as some have, right? We have Conklin and Evan Ingram. So Tyler Conklin from the Jets, Evan Ingram from the Jaguars. So both of these guys, I know Evan Ingram not really that good of a game one, but week two, 8 targets, 46 yards. That's pretty good, man. If your tight end's getting you 8 targets, you like that, right? And then for Tyler Conklin, his first game was pretty solid. I think he had 7 targets his first game. Second game comes in with 9 targets. So 6 for 40. So if your tight end's getting 8 or 9 targets, that's just a solid floor for your tight end, right? As tight end is just a wasteland. So these are guys that are just probably out there on your waiver more than likely. So these are just tight ends that I would like to add if you need a streamer, or if somebody just you had an injury, or like I said, they're just underperforming. Like if you drafted Cole Kmet, I might drop Cole Kmet. If I'm getting 8 or 9 targets out of these players, I might drop Kmet for one of these guys.
yeah, I agree, man. It's tough. Tight ends are such, you know, risky plays, right? All of them. It seems like if you don't have Kelsey, and Andrews and Waller, and that's probably
I
about
didn't
it.
even say Pitts no
Yeah,
more.
I mean, yeah. Oh, Pitts was just somebody we didn't talk about, but man, I'm glad I don't have any shares
That
of him.
came in on the disappointing players,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, should have been in 3 or 4.
Players we're worried about.
Yes, going in the third, I believe in the third, fourth round of the
Third,
redrafts. Yeah,
yeah.
that's terrible. I have some shares in Dynasty for sure, and still love them in Dynasty. Don't sell them, at least not for cheap yet. But anyways,
Try to buy low.
um, I definitely have some shares of Conklin in redraft just because my tight ends I waited on tight end in some leagues, and so I'm starting Conklin. He gave me 10, 11. We talked about Everett last week. He gave you 13 this past week.
Yeah,
So
Gerald Everett, Hurst were on ours last week.
I mean, if you can get that, if you can get that from your streaming tight end, that's about as good as it gets, man. It's better than Hawkinson did.
Oh yeah, and you said Irv Smith was doing pretty good.
He caught a
Irv
touchdown,
Smith,
man.
okay,
My
Irv Smith
guy,
getting involved. Maybe
my
he might be
sleeper.
something to add on here. So
My
I got
sleeper.
one more. Yeah, I drafted Irv Smith, and he was sorry. I think he had a 0 the first game, so I already dropped him.
Yeah.
So I think I got Everett though for him, so it wasn't bad. It worked out for me. So one more little bonus flyer, just Tyler Algier. So we know Damon Williams went to IR, and so first game into action. I know he didn't suit out week one, but that was more so I think because he doesn't have that special teams in him. So or the asset. So they bring him in. First game right here, he had 10 carries, right? So just something kind of worth noting. I know that they were trying to put Patterson more so at receiver, right? That's what they wanted to do. So I think Tyler Algier is a good little ad, sneaky little ad, right? Deeper leagues, or if you want to just take a shot on somebody, maybe miss out on some of these other guys that I think are ahead, right? Darrell Williams, Benjamin. I probably want one of those guys ahead of him. But if you miss out on those guys, Tyler Algier is just a cheap guy, kind of under the radar that you might be able to add, as well as Nico Collins. If you want a receiver, right? If you miss out on some of these guys in the morning, you wake up in the morning. I don't think anybody will bid on these players, but Davis Mills was just horrible. I think he only threw for like a little over 100 yards. But in that, still, what was cool is that Nico Collins got 9 targets. Now I know a lot of people have liked Nico Collins for a while now, right? And hoping he's going to break out. So 9 targets, that's positive. Right, so that's good to see for Nico Collins. He's a big body guy, right? If you see him, he's a huge man, big receiver. So you never know. 9 targets, I would take a flyer on that. He's starting to get some opportunities, so we'll see. Maybe Davis Mills can turn it around next week, and Nico Collins could have a good little week for you.
Yeah. The one other guy just kind of going along the Nico Collins train is Joshua Palmer, man. He's
Oh yeah,
still only 41% rostered. So, I mean, I guess we have to wait and see if Herbert's going to play. But if Allen is out and Herbert plays, he might be somebody that you can start also. He had eight
yeah,
targets, had a touchdown. So,
yeah, for sure, man. And if by chance somebody dropped Damian Pierce, right, scoop him up. He's already kind of seems to be taking over that backfield. He had out carries Burkhead, then he gets 2 targets. So
yeah.
Damian Pierce, another guy out there. All right. Well, that's all we have for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. So we'll be back next week doing another little recap. So thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe, support the channel. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.